Hey YouTube, Lawler here, and apologies in advance. Still a little sick and trying to recover, so want to get a video recorded in the meantime while we go through this. If you guys haven't seen on the timeline, there's been some conversation in regards to some things that are actually pretty off-putting to me. While I may not share the general sentiment as a lot of people, I do think that this needs to be talked about and clarified to provide some insight, just like I did in yesterday's video. You guys know what I'm talking about. In a post recently, you saw all three of the French Ultras, kind of the biggest organizations in France, in both Carmine Corp, Gentlemates, and Vitality, had their fan bases. They're not officially associated with the organizations, but they are fans of the organization that come forward and express and kind of show up and cheer and create an atmosphere that's pretty dope. They came together and basically all said that they were dissatisfied with the conversation that's been going on with Blast and how they haven't been given a proper heads up about when tickets and stuff are going, so they can't properly coordinate when or where they're going to go. Two of these statements I think were fine. Two of them from K Corp and Vitality fan bases, the Blue Wall and the Golden Hornets, were okay. But the mates have come off extremely entitled and unjustified in their respective response. It's been kind of disheartening to see. I'm a huge advocate for attending LAN events, and part of the reason why is the atmosphere is created. You have a bunch of like-minded people going and basically showing and providing their love for the sport. And a small facet of that in the grand scheme of things that makes it really special are these ultras, the ultra fans for their respective teams. They bring in chants and drums and megaphones and stuff like that, and they provide a really cool experience. Difficulty, though, is they are still a small portion of what is the greater scheme of what's going on. While those things are important and that atmosphere that they create is special and it makes the event truly special, statistically speaking, you're talking they are a very minute percentage, and even more so when they don't watch the matches their teams aren't playing in, which is a very big problem. It is awesome to see KC and Vitality on opposite sides of the arena chanting back and forth at each other and bringing that atmosphere. But the issue is if one of those French teams aren't playing, they're gone. They're not in the stands. Those are empty seats. So to provide a little bit of insight, we're going to take a look at these posts. The first one coming from KC, talking that they basically are dissatisfied with the lack of communication. And that's where I have more respect. Both KC and Vitality's fan bases, the Golden Hornets and the Blue Wall, mentioned that they just want to have a chance to have some dialogue. They want the ability to communicate, and since Blast came on, they haven't really had that. I want to make it perfectly clear that these are just fans, and I don't want to downplay it either, but like that is like me and a bunch of my friends coming together for the Green Bay Packers and saying, you need to give us a dedicated section. You need to give us a heads up on when tickets are going to be sold so we can go and coordinate our travel. Which, to me, if you look at any professional organization or anything like that, that is kind of insane. I go both ways on this because I do like the atmosphere and the experience that is provided if you get to be part of these. And I can understand where they're coming from. They want to have a dedicated section for their fans. If you want to really be kind and look at it that way, if I'm a fan and I buy a ticket and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by K-Corp fans, but I'm not a K-Corp person or the Blue Wall, it's going to be a pretty weird experience. So if they can block out that section, I can get it. I can understand the reasoning of why they want to do it and having proper time to coordinate, because it does take a lot of time. And they do bring a decent amount of fans to these sections. But my pushback is the problem that I have every time these fans come in is it is either all or nothing. They almost like actively boycott the other matches unless their team is playing, which is a very small portion of the event in comparison. If I'm a KC fan, I'm watching maybe 3 or 4 matches. All those other matches that are played, those stands are empty, like completely vacant, nothing going on. And while, yes, the priority is to get butts in seats, the problem for the production is if those butts aren't in those seats all the time, the venue looks empty. And then when it comes to trying to sell the space or try to raise marketing dollars or basically say, hey, look at our pitch deck, this is what we need in order to make sure more sponsors want to come on, they go, why is that section empty? Why is that section empty? Do people actually want to attend and watch this thing? And they have to pick and choose. And when those teams aren't playing each other, unless you get like a Blue Wall versus a Vitality where both are in those stands, it's going to be pretty problematic. What I don't think is a problem is, obviously they want to bring in flags and drums and stuff. I think megaphones are kind of a thing that you have to be careful of, because obviously if they're saying stuff or things get put on broadcast, obviously they've got to be a little bit careful. At the end of the day, safety is the number one priority with security. Some of those things are important. I know they use the megaphones and stuff for coordination. At the end of the day, I say adapt. You've got 10 fingers. Hold up a 1 if you're doing chant 1, 2, 3. You can coordinate that way with a Discord or whatever you're doing. if subpart HD guys can do it, so can you. I'm just saying that there's ways to do it that, while yes, the megaphones, people can't in the back hear it anyway because of how noisy it is in there. So you've got to do visual representation in order to do it as is. The flags and stuff, I think, come more so from the other scenes, like in Counter-Strike and stuff, where they had a massive fan that they drag all over. We saw that in Rotterdam too, which was really, really cool. And those things are great. And I think there is some coordination, some conversation with that for security that could happen. And that is a dialogue. Hopefully they have someone within Epic or Blast to talk with. But that's why I have more respect for the KC and Vitality approach, is because they are basically saying, hey, this is frustrating. We wish we had a conversation. But they also need to understand that you are volunteer, you are fans. And while, yes, this is something, if you are not being met with those same level of respect and guidelines, no one is forcing you to do this. I think it's amazing that they are coming together as a fan base and trying to put on these experiences and want to coordinate ahead of time. But I'm sorry, but I don't know a single avenue that is going to go out of their way to give you an advantage, especially considering there's no guarantee that you're going to even qualify for the event. Very large reality where there is a chance that, hey, we sell you this section of tickets ahead of time, and then all of a sudden you don't qualify for the major. And now all those tickets are either being resold, scalped, or whatever, or they're just empty seats, on top of the fact that even if you do make it, you're only going to be in those seats when your team is playing, which is a huge problem. You see the same kind of sentiment given from the Golden Hornets, where they express the same things. You know, hey, since Blast became the organizer, we've had some difficulty trying to plan our trips and stuff. We want to go support our teams and stuff, but some of the things that we need to do that we feel are being removed. This contributes a really good, healthy rivalry, which I agree. Those storylines and those fan bases are really important. It's definitely more of the football club mentality versus what we have in the States, which I will tell you wholeheartedly, I wish we had more in the States. The let's go sports team, clap, 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 clap is the worst, most annoying, and I hate hearing it. I'd much rather have unique chants and songs and things that people can get behind. But the difficulty is, at the end of the day, these are fan bases, and if they don't happen organically, they're just not going to happen. People have to understand with a lot of these things that they are at the mercy of what the venue they're going to sets for the rules, stipulations, and guidelines. Blast does not own the venue. Whatever the Ticketmaster or whatever third-party ticket agency that they're using is the one that determines that stuff. And while they can block off certain sections for like VIP suites and things like that are sellable assets for them, they don't have the ability to just say, this section, you guys get first access to it. Because realistically, they're not going to do the headache to go through. And I've seen this happen in traditional sports, whether it be the NBA or the NFL or otherwise. It is one thing when you own the venue and have the rights to what happens between ticketing, merch, concessions, and things like that. But it is an entirely different situation when you are just renting the venue. When you are going into somebody else's house, you are not a mainstay there. This is a one-off event in a calendar of hundreds of thousands of concerts and different events going on. They are not going to go out of their way to go above and beyond to make that stuff happen. And it's a lot more work to make it happen for what is a small portion of things that they are trying to accomplish. It's just the tough reality that I can say confidently that no other place really does this. While yes, in some esports and some staples, it is possible, but within Rocket League, it's just not going to happen. And I personally am on the side of Blast of not accommodating, looking out for people's well-being and safety, and not giving a heads up, and allowing every fan, no matter who you are, who you support, or what's going on, to have the same chance of getting a ticket as anybody else. Like, bigger problems I have is that we still go through Ticketmaster, and the amount that they gouge on fees and stuff like that is a problem, because we all hate Ticketmaster and all the scalping stuff that goes on. But providing an advantage for people to go and sign and pick up, even when there's no guarantee they're going to be there, doesn't really make sense. Now, I talked about how Golden Hornets and KC I have some respect for, because the way they approach it, and they say, hey, this is frustrating. We wish there was a dialogue that could be created. We wish we could have some communication to talk about this. At the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to talk, sit down and have a conversation. The one that frustrates me the most is the green suits and the level of entitlement that they have in their statement. But at the end of the day, I know these fan bases go, okay, this is the section we're committing to. Everybody make sure you buy up tickets in this section. This is where we're going to be. And that's how you coordinate it. This response is a clear sign of disrespect in light of our request and necessary order. They don't have to adhere to you. They have bigger problems than your section. And if you're telling me you're bringing 40 people, 80 people, 150 people out of the 5 to 8 to 13,000, You are such a small percentage. And while, yes, they want to accommodate and make sure you guys have a good time, they're not going to adhere to such a small percentage, let alone any percentage, when there's other things at hand. He said, for several weeks, we've done everything in our power to establish a dialogue and ensure constructive collaboration. However, we received no information regarding the event before the official announcement. You guys aren't official representatives of Mates. If it's Gotaga, if it's something like that, and Gotaga and those guys are like, hey, we want to stream from the venue. We would like our fan base behind them. And I'm not saying that didn't happen. There is that potential, but those situations are a little bit different. At the same time, it is impossible for them to do so when their team hasn't even qualified yet, let alone the matches haven't even started yet. They don't start for another couple months in the beginning of January. So for them to say, yes, let's set aside the section for you guys because there's a chance that you might make it, is kind of insane. It will not happen. On top of that, they said Blast has chosen to close the door and disregard our needs. I think they just have bigger priorities, and it's not that they're pushing aside your needs. They just have other needs that are more valuable and more important, in their opinion. And this compromises our ability to provide our members with a well-organized experience, to which I also disagree. You can, within your community, say, hey, this is the section we want to buy. Do your best to do this thing, because I've seen numerous other communities do it with no issues. Section 104 every time is known as the section that is going to be rowdy, that is going to do the chanting and singing, and shout-outs to Craftman and all the other guys that happen to do it every single time without advantages being provided by Psyonix or Epic. And if they can do it, so can you. During the past tournaments, we've brought in supporters and people traveling, which I'm awesome to see, the dedicated 40 that are willing to travel all the way to Dallas. But the local security consistently ignored us, making us harder each event to manage. At the end of the day, the security is there to do their job, and they work for the venue. They don't work for Epic or Psyonix. They are hired people to do their jobs. They do not care where you came from, what you're trying to do, or what to accomplish. They have rules in place, and that is their job. That's it. That's it. And sure, maybe Epic could say, hey, there's going to be some people coming in with these things. It's allowed. But the reality is it's not their venue. They don't get to make those rules. The venue makes those rules. So yes, they probably ignored you because they're tired of dealing with people that are like, oh, we get to bring these things. And they're like, no, you can't. That's what our website dictates. That's why every single time when you see these posts, you can go to the Birmingham one for additional details, for security things, for what's allowed in. Check their website, not our website, because it's not their venue. Every new venue is different. Every new venue's got different rules. Every new venue is one more thing that they have to try to accommodate and change, which they're just not going to do. Again, it is one event of thousands over the calendar year. It's not going to happen. We've always acted impeccably, and the organization didn't hesitate to use our image for their communication. I'm sorry, but you, as soon as you step in those doors, know you're on camera, and they're going to utilize it for whatever imaging that they want. You are forfeiting your right and your likeness and your imagery for that. If they happen to have a bunch of fans that are cheering and chanting on broadcast for the team that is playing, doesn't matter if it's you or me or anybody else, if they see people excited, they're going to use it. So I'm sorry, but don't think you're that special. I'm sorry that sounds rude, but like, my goodness, the level of entitlement in this is insane. We announced that the green suits will no longer participate in events organized by Blast until supporter associations are placed at the center of their decision. Why would Blast, who is in charge of running an esport, put you guys at the center of their decision and relegate to the role of passive spectators? At the end of the day, these organizations need to understand that's what they are. They are fans. They are spectators. And while, yes, they go above and beyond and they create these awesome atmospheres, to Blast, you are a number. And I'm sorry that sounds rude, but it is the case. You are nothing more than a fan showing up and showing your support. Passively, actively, does not matter. You do not get special treatment because you are a fan who is rowdy about your team. Well, yes, having these fans that want to shell out and go crazy is important. Every time I'm going to pick the kid who supports Rocket League over the person who picks a specific team, because that person will still come to the World Championship even if their team doesn't make it. He's still going to love the esport, not just his team. And fanatics, ultras are super important. Having those passionate people are super important. But it is insane to say that they need to consider and put you at the center of their decision, because the reality is this is a very small portion of what is actually going on. This, to me, is extremely entitled and extremely disrespectful. And the unfortunate thing is whether it was done specifically with the mindset of the people from Gentlemates, or if it is just their small fan base doing this, the reality is this only looks poorly on Gotaga and the rest of the guys at the top. Because if Blast was considering it in the past, reading this, I go, I am actively not going to go out of my way to help these type of people because they think they are owed it. They deserve it. They think that they are entitled to this thing, and they're not. It is one thing to say, hey, we are banding together. We would like to come together and have a general agreement. We would like to have a conversation with someone. We would like to talk and at least make sure our voices are heard. But to come out and say, your decisions need to put us at the center of that decision, I agree. I think these guys bring an awesome atmosphere. I think these guys do some really cool things and provide a really unique experience for people that are there. But the two big qualms I have, number one, you don't stay in your seats. You vacate the area, almost boycotting the matches when your teams don't play, which I understand. If you're not interested in the matches, don't watch the matches. But in contrast to that, don't expect any favors when that's the case as well. I'm almost surprised I'm making a video on this. I didn't think this would have to be said, but like I look at a bunch of the comments and I go, okay, how is nobody expressing this? How is the overwhelming majority this other way? I don't know, man. I guess my last opinion on this is I don't think it hurts to have a conversation, ever. I don't think there's ever a bad time to sit and chat and hear what their needs and desires are and go to them and then provide that kickback and say, listen, guys, like this venue, it's out of our control. We can't control how tickets and stuff like that are done. We're not going to give fans a heads up on ticket sales compared to other fans. We're just not going to do it. At the end of the day, do what everybody else does. Find a section that you want to make your section at every event. And if you happen to be in attendance, you know when tickets go live like everybody else. Get ready to tell your fans that, hey, at this time, purchase your tickets and do it. Because if it's good enough for Section 104, which has been a staple since Season 5, why not you guys? I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion on it. Curious on what you guys have to say. I'm going to go back to taking a bunch of medicine and being relaxed because now I'm all heated up. I'm getting frustrated. So, as always, I appreciate all your love and support. Curious to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments down below. See you in the next one. Peace.